Hey guys, put a wide angle lens on this thing, or wider angle lens, or 9 millimeter lens on this now. So you kind of see a little bit of what I'm dealing with. So this is my 9 foot diamond table. I'm thinking about replacing this table sometime in the next year, trying to get some money stuff worked out, stuff like that. But my choices that I'm seriously considering right now would be another 9 footer, but with tighter pocket, either 4 1/4 or 4 inch pockets. These are 4.5, which was the standard tight pocket table back when I bought this thing in 2001. But times they are changing, as they say. Another thing that I'm considering is getting a 10 foot table, a 10 foot diamond table. I do have room, but kind of just barely. You guys can see this pole. That's why I put the 9 millimeter lens on. There's another pole down here. In this current situation, this pole is in my way very, very rarely. If I have a shot like this, I'm up against the pole, I'm not having any room to really backstroke. But that's it. One out of every 500 shots, whatever, I haven't counted. If I put a 10 foot table in this spot, that would be a little bit more, probably more often. I can't really go that much closer to that wall because of this ledge where, if anybody's ever wondered about how jagged this is, it's because there used to be a big semicircle of stonework, just like all this, and there was a wood stove sitting here when I bought the house. So I took a sledgehammer, busted out all that big semicircle. That's where all those rocks over there are. Took out the wood stove so I could put a pool table in, because a pool table is clearly much more important. I kind of feel like I've done a video before about pool table sizes and such. I couldn't find it. Maybe this is a repeat. I don't know. But I think the general advice, whatever that you'll hear, is, well, get the biggest table that you can afford and that you have room for. And that's certainly sound advice. You don't want to buy a table you can't afford, I don't think. But a lot of it, to me, more depends on what are you playing on? What are you doing? Are you a bar table league guy playing on 3.5x7s all the time? And that's really your goal is just to be the best 3.5x7 player? Get a 3.5x7 table. That would be my advice in that case. If you get a 9 foot table, sure, you might get better at making longer shots. You're going to encounter longer shots than you ever would encounter on a 3.5x7. But you're not going to have nearly the clusters. So there's a trade-off. If I get a 5x10 down here, I'm going to have to deal with the longer shots, but not as many clusters that I have right here. It's a trade-off. It's what are you playing on? What are your goals? What can you afford? What do you have room for? The first table that I ever had, my roommate and I went in on a 3x6 foot Fisher bar box from like the 1950s or so. And I mean, it was a toy, but it had a slate bed and it played pretty well. And it was a pool table. And I'm definitely of the opinion that a pool table is better than not having a pool table, even if it's junk. As long as it's semi-solid, has a slate bed, you can shoot. And if you're consistent and then the table's consistent, it works. That 3x6 table, well, I beat the hell out of it over the years. My wife and I moved into a smaller house, and I took that 3x6 table and crammed it into a corner of my living room. So I could only access it from, like, say, this side and this side. But it was a table, which is better than not having a table, like I just said. Could still practice stuff and all that. Another thing, I credit that really small table. I used to be really good at moving the cue ball around clusters and breaking out clusters and things like that. Playing 8 ball is mostly what I played back in those days. This was Omaha. And on a 3x6 table, yeah, you're going to have clusters. Anytime you have more than two object balls on a 3x6, they're probably clustered up. That's the way it seemed to be. So I was really good at maneuvering the cue ball around and breaking things out and stuff like that. I credit that table for that. I don't credit that table for being able to make a shot. That was on the bigger table. But back then, yeah, it was great. So if all you have room for, seriously, if all you have room for is a 3x6, I say get a 3x6 because it's better than not having a pool table at all, in my opinion. And sure, people will get on their dining room table and they're practicing their bridge, and you can only do that so much. Well, just my opinion, but when I was stationed in Omaha, the rec center there had 4.5x9 Gandys. And at the time, I was mainly a league player. And in Omaha, the bar boxes are 3.5x7s, just like they probably are in most places, although not in the Pacific Northwest. But so most my playing is in bars or at the rec center. So 3.5x7s or 4.5x9s. When I got a table for my townhouse at the time, I split it down. I got a 4x8. My reasoning being, well, A, I could afford that 4x8 table, but my other reasoning being, on a 4x8, I'm going to have to continue to try to deal with some clusters that I might not have to deal with on a bigger table. And also on a 4x8, I'm going to have to deal with a little bit longer shots that I might not have to deal with on a 3.5x7. So I compromised. I didn't have room for two tables or the money for two tables, and I wasn't a crazy person back then. So 4x8, perfectly fine table. After a few years, the rec center there at Offutt in Omaha got rid of they were 4.5x9 Gandy tables is what they had. Those things were tanks. They were tanks. I mean, sure, the diamond tables are very well constructed and all that, but the Gandys that were at that rec center, they would beat the crap out of the diamonds as far as being tough and well built and all that stuff. Anyway, so they replaced those with a bunch of 4x8s. I don't remember, it's Stapleton or somebody. They weren't super great tables. It seemed like they wore out pretty quickly. The rails wore out. But where was I? Just talking about. I put up a poll. Hey, I'm thinking about getting another table. What do you guys think? 4.5x9 with 4.25-inch pockets. Just a little bit tighter than this one. 4.5x9 with 4-inch pockets, which I would never see unless I got into some matchroom events, which is never going to happen. Or 5x10, which would kind of be fun. The only 5x10 that I play on is the one down at Buffalo's in New Orleans. It's the only one I've ever hit a ball on, is that table. It's funny. I mean, I'm used to, I guess, a fairly large table for a lot of people, a 4.5x9. But if I walk up to a 5x10, it's like walking onto the deck of an aircraft carrier. It just seems so huge. But I tell you what, when I make some nice shots on a 5x10, I feel pretty darn good about it. And then if I go from that table to a little dinky 4.5x9, I feel like I can't miss for a while. I mean, I said that the only 5x10 I ever played on, I was mistaken. A million years ago, this is again back in the Omaha days, there was a place over in Council Bluffs, Iowa, that had a 5x10 snooker table. So it had the rounded pocket openings and all that. It was a snooker table. But we always grabbed regular pool balls and we would play some, ring game 9-ball or whatever on the table, just messing around. Like before league, before we go back to 3.5x7s and play 8-ball. For a while, you couldn't miss. There's no such thing as a hard shot on 3.5x7 with big bucket pockets like those guys had when you've been playing on a 5x10 with snooker pockets for a while. It was kind of cool. So, um, one of the questions that some people may have asked when they saw my poll was, well, why not just get a snooker table? I know a guy that has a 6x12 snooker table. Well, I don't have room for a 6x12. I could justify getting that 5x10 in here. If I wanted to get a 6x12, I'd have to take out that pole and replace with a steel beam or something. And I've talked to some contractors about possibly doing that, but yeah, a 6x12, I've never seen a 6x12 in person. Never have. Plus, I wouldn't want to get a snooker table. I just would not want to get a snooker table. Part of the thing about pool is you want to get what you play on. If possible, you want to get what you play on. I don't want to have a shot like this 5 and maybe hit it perfect down here, but if it's a snooker table with rounded points, and I hit it just like that and it bobbles out, no. The table that I had before this one had shimmed pockets, and they were shimmed down to about 4 1/8. And that was all perfectly fine, but the shims act differently. If a ball hits this pocket facing, it behaves differently than if there was extra shim material there. It just does. So when I had that table replaced, I said, no, I don't want any more shims. Even though these are 4 1/2, which are bigger than what I had been playing with, they act normal. And I wanted to practice pool on what I played pool. And everything that I've done has kind of been trying to keep ready for Derby City, keep ready for Derby State. It's why I bought a diamond table in the beginning. They used to have this kind of table at Derby City. Now they got the smart tables and all that. So I was asking the comments for my poll, why not just get some shims? And I've thought about that, going back to a shim table. And maybe I would end up doing that. But if I can come up with a way to afford it, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get a new table, or a new to me table at least, with just extended rails. Or I'm going to go all the way to a 5x10. Either way. Somebody else asked me, they must think I really hate myself, well, why not get a 5x10 with 4-inch pockets? No, because I don't hate myself that much. That I would not have any fun playing pool. If I could never make a ball, I would not have any fun playing pool. So I said a 5x10 with 4 1/4 is what I said. That would still be pretty darn tough. But I think I could still have fun doing it. I don't know what I'm going to end up doing. I may end up not doing anything. It's just something I'm thinking about. I get some money throughout the year, and then a lot of times what did you spend that money on? And I don't remember. So it must not have been very important. A pool table would be pretty important. Another consideration I have to make is, you guys can see this light in this view. This is the diamond 9-foot light, matches this table. Any other table I get is not going to match this lighting. But do I care about that? And usually for my YouTube videos, you can't see the light. It's out of frame. But for me, am I going to be walking around my brand new 10-foot diamond smart table and looking at this and how they don't match and just vomiting the whole basement? Because that would be gross. I don't want to do that. But then again, I like this light. I think it looks a lot better than a lot of lights you might get. There is a perimeter light up inside there. I did a video about that. I replaced the fluorescent tubes, or the ballast went out on me. So there's one of those perimeter billiards lights up there. And it lights the table absolutely great. But I would not want one of those perimeter billiard lights just hanging from the ceiling without this housing. Because I think at that point it looks ugly, collects dust and all that stuff. I don't know what I'm going to do. I might not do anything. But I might do something. If I get if I get 1 billion subscribers on YouTube, then I could buy a 10-foot table, a 9-foot table, another 9-foot table, a 3.5 by 7, a 6 by 12. I have room in my basement as long as I replace these poles. I can put a bunch of stuff down here. I did have a 3.5 by 7 over there, but I never used it. I have this table, and I had a 3.5 by 7 over there, and I just never used it. It wasn't the greatest table in the world. It wasn't super level, but I didn't care enough to get it fixed. So I just ended up selling. I think I traded it for. No, I think I just sold that one. I think I just sold that one. When I first bought this house, there was a 4x8 over there, which was pretty much a piece of junk. But it was a pool table, which is better than not a pool table. I mentioned that. But the first chance I got, I bought this and those stools. I think you can see one of the stools. And there's a wall rack over there. I bought all the stuff. Actually bought this stuff September 11th, 2001. But that was just a coincidence, I'm sure. I don't know if there's anything else that I need to say about this. Buy what you have room for. Buy what you can afford. But any pool table is better than not a pool table, in my opinion, if you're a pool player. And then we'll say, oh man, it's too bad we play pool. We need all this space. Well, if you were a tennis player, you need even more space. A basketball player, you need even more space. It's not the end of the world. I just like to have something to shoot on, so I could just walk down here and shoot on it instead of having to go to a pool hall or whatever. It's very handy. Even just to practice stuff. Like I said, I had a 3x6, which was fantastic. I don't think I'm in. Oh, can you guys see this tape? There's a piece of tape here. There's a piece of tape here. That tape marks where I'm in frame with my regular lens on this camera. So if I stand like here, I'm not in frame usually. But this is a wider lens, so this is not going to be a permanent place. The camera's too far away and all that. But if I think of something else, I'll fire this camera back up and talk about it. But I don't know. I highly recommend anybody that plays pool get a pool table if they can. Even if they have to cram it in a living room, even in the corner of a living room, even if it's a 3x6. It's still a pool table. And that's still awesome. Thanks, guys.